How's it going, guys? Hope you're all doing well. I'm Isaiah Hwang, and in today's video I'm going to tell you how I started my own design business, Hwang Design. So I started my business back in 2004. I was working full-time at Private Label Executive Gifts. They were a promotional product supplier, and I was working in the art department doing design work and production art during the day. But at night I would work on my freelance jobs for family, friends, and my church. When the crash of 2008 hit though, I lost my job and I got laid off. Not knowing what to do next, I was pretty stressed and worried. This, for me, is where things started to get interesting. Have you ever had a dream that was so vivid and real you felt like you were actually in it? Well, I had one of those dreams. In my dream, I was standing on a cliff, facing the ocean. I couldn't see anything in front of me because it was really foggy. And then I heard a voice and it asked me, "Isaiah, where do you want to be?" And I'm like, here? And then I realized that this voice was God. And God was asking me where I wanted to be. He said, "You can stay where you are, and that's fine, but I'm out here." So I asked, "Where is here?" He answered, "I'm in the fog, where there is the unknown, but there is adventure. Being out here won't be easy, but it'll be worth it if you put your faith in me. You know, you can stay where you are, where you're comfortable and you know what everything is like, or you can come out here where I have an adventure for you. I'll show you that I can provide for you and bless you. You just have to take the leap of faith." Honestly, I struggled to answer God, but after some thought, I told God, "I want to be where you are. I want to be in the unknown, on the adventure." And then blam! The next day I got up and I had hundreds of clients. I had so many projects. I was just so happy. Yeah, right. Actually, nothing happened after that. A few days later, while I was having lunch with a friend, he asked me, "What's your dream for your design business?" And I told him, "Man, if one day I could have a studio where I could do my work and maybe have a storefront where I could sell some t-shirts I designed, I think that would be amazing and that would be my dream." And he said, "Well, why don't you do it now? Why don't you find a place now?" And my response to that was, how? The economy is so bad. I just got laid off and I have no income. I have some savings. It's not a lot, but that's all I have. And then the dream, and then my prayer, and I started thinking, is this, God, is this you? Is this where you want me to join you? Is that why I had that dream? So I cautiously began doing a search for a studio space with a little office. There were a lot that were available, but they were out of my price range, or they were too small, or they were too big. The location was really bad. But then I found the perfect spot in Santa Clara. It was in my budget. It was a perfect 800 square studio with an office in the front. So I took the leap. Scared out of my mind, I thought this was truly going to be a disaster. But you know what? It wasn't. The first few months were really slow. Honestly, I did have to use my savings to pay for my rent, my utilities, my insurance. But slowly, a few months later, I started getting clients and I started getting more projects. And the clients that I had before started to give me more work. And it seemed like every month when I would struggle and think, "Oh man, how can I make it this month? Am I gonna be able to pay for my rent?" Somehow, some way, I would get a project, 2 projects, 3 projects, all at once, and I'd have all this work that would come in, and I would make it every single month. And as the projects grew, the budgets grew, which was so crazy for me. I was doing projects for $500, $700, $1,000, and then these projects started to get really large, like $5,000, $10,000, $20,000. I'm not trying to brag. I'm not trying to tell you that this is what it's always like, but for me to see the actual fruit of what had been happening was such a blessing, and I was so amazed that this was actually happening to me. So this is where I got my big break. So I got a call from a client, and they had a very small budget to design a brochure. This lady called me and she said, "Hey, I like your design work, but all we have is $500 to design a brochure. Could you do it for us?" we're an educational company and we need some help. So I thought about it, and at the time I wasn't busy, so I said, hey, you know what? I love helping students, I love helping young people, so hey, let's do it. So I signed on. I did the best job that I could, and I handed off the final files, and she was really pleased with the work. She paid me, and that's the last I heard of her. Fast forward a year later, I get a call from a client, and she says, hey, my friend recommended you to me, and she said that you did a great job on that brochure design you did last year. I think you charged her like $500. It was for an educational company. I said, oh yeah, I remember. And she said, hey, I'm a dean at the school over here, and we have some marketing material I'd like designed. I want to get some brochures and flyers done, so could you help us out? So I said, sure. So I sent her a quote, and then I waited. And a few days later, she responded back and she said, this is great, let's go ahead and move forward. So I get the job, I finish it, and she loves it, right? So she takes that project that I did and she takes it to one of her meetings with her colleagues. And in front of all of her colleagues, she shares all this work that I had done for her. And then a couple of days later, I get another call from 2 other deans, and they're saying, hey, we love this work that you did for her. We'd love for you to do some work for us. And now, wow, just from that one client, I have 3 more projects just came out of nowhere, right? So then if you keep fast forwarding year after year after year, I keep getting more work from this client. The budgets keep going up and up, and now they've become my largest client. And it all started just from that small $500 job that I did for somebody. If I had said no, maybe I wouldn't have gotten my largest client from them. But I did say yes. And because of that, I was able to really see the blessings that were just ready for me, right? So after my 2-year lease ended, I decided to move my business back home because honestly, most of the clients that I was seeing them at their office. The photo studio that I had created, I hardly ever used because most of the clients wanted me to be on location. So I was staying less and less at the office, and I started to realize that I wanted to save some more money and I wanted to invest that money more into my business. So I decided to move out of that office after the 2-year lease ended, and then I decided to start working from home. When I had moved out of the office, honestly, I was a little sad, but really thankful that God had blessed me and taken care of me those 2 years during that lease. God did take care of me, provide for me, and bless me. I never missed a payment. I didn't go hungry. I was able to pay for my car. I was able to hang out with my friends. I was able to pay my credit card bill. I was able to take care of my daily needs. And I even came out financially ahead. Even today, 16 years later, I'm so glad I took that leap of faith. And I'm thankful that I can help my clients tell their visual stories through the work that I do for them. So now here's the part that I ask you, what about you? Where do you want to be? Do you want to stay where you are, or do you want to pursue your dreams? Sometimes you have to take a full-time job while pursuing that dream. Other times you have to go all in and just pursue that dream full-time. You have to risk everything for it, but you have to figure that out for yourself. So if you decide to take that leap, here are 5 tips to help you start your design business. Tip number 1, overhead, budget, and profit. So you have to think about your overhead cost, your budget, and your profit. So your overhead cost is the cost that you actually have to pay to do your business. So if you're renting an office, you have to pay, let's say $500 to rent the office. You have to pay for insurance, you have to pay for utilities, maybe you have to pay for supplies. All of those costs are your overhead costs. And then you have to pay for your budget. So if your budget is, let's say you have to pay for a car payment that you have food that you have to eat, let's say you have credit cards that you have to pay, that's your monthly budget. So you have to figure out how much that cost is. And then you have to figure out your profit. So how much money do you need to earn in profit to pay your overhead and your budget? So if you have, let's say, let's make the numbers easy. Let's say your monthly overhead cost is $500, and let's say your monthly budget is $500. So in total, your profit needs to be at $1,000 each month to break even. So I know $1,000 seems like a lot of money, but you can think of it this way. If you do one project that is $1,000, then you're breaking even. If you do 2 projects that are $500, then you're breaking even. If you do 5 projects that are $200 each, you're at $1,000, so you're still breaking even. So if you break it up into smaller numbers, then it makes it a little bit more easy to figure out what you need to do and what type of work you need to charge for so that you can break even, and then eventually grow your profit so that you're not just breaking even and you're actually making a profit. Tip number 2, feast or famine. So this principle is basically when the work is there, you have to work as hard and as much as you can. That's the feast, right? So there were times when I had a lot of projects going on simultaneously, and I would sleep sometimes 2-3 hours a day just to get all these projects done, because eventually what happens is the projects run out and you don't have work to do. So then what happens? If you don't have any projects going on, then you hit the opposite of feast, which is the famine. And in times of famine, there's no work, there's no money, and you're just sitting there. So those are the times where you really have to save during the times of feast. So when all the work is coming in, you save as much as you can so that in the months that you don't have work, you can use that money to pay for your monthly expenses and your overhead. Tip number 3, always get a deposit. Now, there have been so many times when I first started out in my design business where I got really messed up from people, where they would give me projects to do and then they wouldn't pay me. So one example was one time I got a call and the person said, "Hey, I'm a friend of so-and-so and I would love to have you do a logo for me. I can pay you $1,000. I think it was $1,000. So at the time I was like, man, I'm starting out, $1,000 seems like so much money to me. All right, let's do it. I stay up all night and I create a bunch of logos for this guy. I send him all these proofs and he's like, yeah, I love this. This is great. Can you do this? Can you do that? And he's just on and on and on. The next day I said, well, okay, so I'm almost done with the logo. So you can send the payment by check or by PayPal. How are you going to pay me? And he goes, oh, you know what? I'm not really sure anymore. Like, I don't know if I can afford this. I don't know if this is exactly what I want. And at the end of the day, he didn't pay me. So I got really upset and I wrote him an email that basically told him, if you use any of my designs, I'm gonna pursue legal action against you. But at the end of the day, I did all that work and I didn't get anything for it. So please protect yourself. Make sure to get a deposit. Normally when I get a first-time client that I've never worked with before, I usually ask for 50% upfront before I even start anything. And then at the end, when I hand over the final files or I print something for them and I deliver it, I ask for the rest. Some of my clients that I've worked with for many years, they just pay me at the end, like net 30, after I deliver the final project or the final printing. But for new clients, I highly recommend you getting some kind of deposit because you never know. Tip number 4, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Now, when I first started, I had so many people tell me, hey, if you do this job, I'm gonna send you 10, 20, 30 more projects just like this. If you do this one thing for free, then I can do all these other projects. I'm gonna give you tens and hundreds of thousands of dollars in projects. And I get so excited and I would do all this work and guess what? Nothing. They wouldn't pay me and I would just end up wasting my time and losing out. So if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. Just be really careful because there are so many people out there that are gonna try to either use you purposefully or maybe they don't even know that they're using you, but they're gonna try to do that. So look out for yourself, protect yourself, and always think, if this is too good to be true, it probably is. Tip number 5, be humble and learn to ask for help. Now, one of the things that I did when I first started my design business is I created a website. And at the time, I was using WordPress. And it was a really hard platform for me because there were some things that I wanted to do on the site, but I just didn't know any web development. So instead of trying to read all these books and try to figure everything out on my own, because what I needed to do was get my website up and start getting clients so I could make money. What I did was I reached out to one of my friends who is a web developer and I said, hey, can you help me? I'm trying to do this on my website. I just don't know how to do it. You are an expert, and I would love for you to, give me some help. How much do you charge? I can pay you. I can barter some design services or some photography. Can you help me out? And he was so graciously willing to help me, and I was so thankful for that. And that always stuck with me, because as designers, I know that we have this ego inside of us and we want to be the best, right? We want to show everybody, oh, look at how great our work is and look at all the things that I can do. But there are times, and many times, where I realize, no, you know what? I don't know this. I'm not an expert. And if I just humble myself and reach out into my network and ask for help, I know that someone will be able to help me and I can help them, right? So maybe I can pass on a job to them that maybe I can't do, but I can pass it on to them. So just think about that on your next project. So I have one more tip for you. Bonus tip number 6. It's not always about the money. In this world that we live in right now, everyone is pursuing their dreams. Everybody wants to come up. Everyone wants to make tons of money, buy all the things that they desire. They want to be comfortable, all those things, right? They want to provide for their families. They want to be successful. And we equate success with money, right? But sometimes, as designers, we have to think, the skills that I have right now, I could change somebody's life with them. I'll give you an example. If you had a friend, let's say, right, and he had a restaurant and he was struggling to get more customers to come in and eat at his restaurant, and he was just barely scraping by every month. And let's say he reached out to you and said, hey, can you help me? I want to get more clients to come in and more people to eat at this restaurant, but I just don't know how. And you said, hey, sure, I'll help you. And you created, let's say, a new logo, and you created some branding, and you added some banners, and you did some marketing, material for him, and you sent out some social media posts, and you did all of these things that you're an expert in. And now you're able to help him grow his business. Maybe because of that, you changed his life trajectory. Maybe because of that, now he's able to grow his business and he's able to open up another location. And maybe because of that, he's able to buy the home that he always had dreamed of buying for his family. And maybe he can actually, send his kids to college without having to worry about the tuition fees and all those things. And it all happened because you saw your friend in need, and you had this wonderful skill that you could provide for him, and you used it to bless him, to take care of the thing that he needed. You were there to help him. And those are the things that I think about. Sometimes when I'm doing a job or I'm quoting somebody, I think, you know what? It's not just about the money. It's also about helping people. It's about blessing them, and it's about us being a true blessing and a light to those around us. And sometimes it's just about doing something for no recognition other than helping your neighbor, helping the person next to you, your family, your friend. Maybe you have a coworker. There are so many people that are in need, and as designers, we can do something about it. Well, that's the story of how I started Hwang Design, and those are 6 tips to help you start your design business. I just want to encourage you to keep getting after it, to keep doing great work, to keep pushing forward and pursuing the dreams that you have. Don't give up on them. Keep going. And remember to let your light shine.